Good Saturday morning, manna gatherers. We are here today to gather God's good stuff for us on this weekend. And so let's just jump right to it so you can get to all your big plans for this weekend. We are on our last day with Joel 2. So hear these words from Joel. Yet even now, says the Lord, return to me with all your heart, with fasting, with weeping, with mourning. Rend your hearts and not your clothing. Return to the Lord your God, for God is gracious and merciful, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love, and relents from punishing. So here's what I was thinking about as I once again was reading these verses. How lucky were God's people to have someone like Joel. We all need a Joel in our life to help us return to God, who as we talked about yesterday, emulates God's very graciousness with us, mercifulness with us, love with us, who doesn't want to see us punished, but wants to see us reconciled with God. We all need a Joel. I've had Joels throughout my life help me get back on track, and one of such people was a woman named Joy. She came into my life. I babysat for her when I was in high school, and her two children who are now in college and beyond. And I was having a little bit of a rough time in high school and couldn't just find where I fit. So she gave me this book, The Missing Piece Meets the Big O. It is a wonderful Shel Silverstein book, and I just wanted to read part of this with you this morning. It's the end of the book, so if you want to read the whole book, you'll have to go and get it yourself. I think you are the one I have been waiting for, said the missing piece. Maybe I am your missing piece. But I am not missing a piece, said the big O. There is no place you would fit. That is too bad, said the missing piece. I was hoping perhaps that I could roll with you. You cannot roll with me, said the big O. But perhaps you can do it by yourself. By myself? A missing piece cannot roll by itself. Have you ever tried? Asked the big O. But I have sharp corners, said the missing piece. I am not shaped for rolling. Corners wear off, said the big O, and shapes change. Anyhow, I must say goodbye. Perhaps we will meet again. And away it rolled. The missing piece was alone again. Oh. But for a long time, it just sat there. Then slowly it lifted itself up on one end and flopped over, plop. Then lift, pull, plop. It began to move forward. And soon its edges began to wear off. Lift, pull, flop. Lift, pull, flop. And its shape began to change. And then it was bumping instead of flopping. And then it was bouncing instead of bumping. And then it was rolling instead of bouncing, and it didn't know where, and it did not care. It was rolling. That's where I'll stop. But I hope you see how this relates to Joel too. You know, this is about our return, changing our shape, smoothing out those rough edges of our lives so that we can once again be in sync with God. At the end of the book, that little piece does meet up with the big O who taught it how to roll and encouraged it to partner to try it itself. Well, Joel is like that big O for the people of God and for us and others who have been like Joel's in our lives, to encourage us to do the hard work with God we need to do in order to get rolling along in life. So I hope that will encourage you and remind you, one, you're not alone. You do have others, like we have Joel, and the people of God had Joel when he was speaking these words of encouragement and hope to them. But also, yeah, you can do hard things, but you have to commit to doing them. And that's what Lent is all about, is having the willpower, having the discipline to lift yourself up and to confront those rough and sharp edges, so that by the end of these 40 days, they would be smoothed out and you'll once again be in sync with God. Have a good weekend, Manna Gatherers, and I will see you next week.